Welcome again. This is the EPOS Norway Portal training session, which will take 1.5 hours. We'll guide you through the EPOS Norway data portal. Here is the schedule for today. So we'll start with introduction of EPOS for 20 minutes with some introduction of the portal. Then we will have 2 use cases, 20 minutes each. The first use case is about the general demonstration of the EPOS Norway data portal, and with focus on geohazard in the Arctic. And the second use case is about how to add your own data and external WMS layers to the EPOS Norway portal. Those 2 use cases will be introduced by Harald Nedrebo, colleague of mine at the University of Bergen. And then we will have 20 minutes at the end for a general discussion, questions, if you have any. EPOS Norway data portal. So as you see, it provides a multidisciplinary open data access within the solid air science from Norway in this case. EPOS stands for European Plate Observing System, which gathers or tries to connect all the geoscientific data sets openly and publicly available into one infrastructure and make them accessible. And the EPOS Norway portal does it for the Norwegian data sets within the institutions which were collaborating so far. So those are listed as partners at the lower part of the slide. And today I will guide you through the main outcomes of that project we were running, and actually it's still running for a few more years. So because the EPOS Norway started as a project for 5 years, got funding, and with commitment of running the infrastructure for additional 5 years at least. But of course, we plan to run it much longer. So as I mentioned, the EPOS data portal is for access to multidisciplinary open data within solid air science, and it's for free. Currently, in the EPOS Norway portal, we have 18 web services connected, which those provides access to approximately 288 layers, and we have 14 static data sets. The portal itself has the features or allows the search, display, analyzing, and download the data. So this portal is probably kind of a unique way, first of its kind in Norway for sure, for exploring various geoscientific data sets in one common interface. So again, you have features which allows you to find the data, display them, analyze them, and also download at the end. It's tightly linked to the development of the European portal. So this is the screenshot of the EPOS data portal, the European-wide portal. Of course, the Norwegian effort is to make the data sets within Norway ready for being integrated also into the European level. So we started with the Norwegian portal, but the services should be also ready to be connected to the European portal. Back to the Norwegian territory. Here on the right-hand side, you see the different thematic communities from the European system, and these layers, which are data sets or areas which are indicated with the arrows, we have partially covered within the Norwegian portal. The volcano observations we don't have really. We have just let's say seismic activities around the volcano Jan Mayen, because Norway has just one volcano up in the north, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Here again, this is the search interface. On the left-hand side, you see the bar charts with categories. On the right-hand side, you see the list of data sets. And again, on the full right, those are the individual domains which we are partially covering. The Norwegian portal provides visualization tools, and those are scatter plot, table plot, line plot, image view, but that one actually we don't use yet. We have bar plot and glow plot, which is basically a map view. The EPOS Norway Portal is implemented by using the Enlighten Web interface or tool, which has been developed by Norse and allows interactive analysis of the datasets by using a brushing and linking feature. We'll explain what it means. So the brushing means that you interactively select a subset of data using the mouse, and then you can dynamically alter the bounding box. And linking then means that if you are plotting one dataset in multiple views, you can actually apply that filter from one plot also to all other connected plots. Then you can visualize it, the same dataset in different views and still linked. So the brushing basically in one plot, you select dataset or subset, and then only the highlighted points then are kind of reflecting your selection. We will demonstrate multiple times during this workshop, so don't worry, it was just a brief introduction of that. Of course, once you do this filtering in a table view, then you can download that selected subset by simply clicking on the download button in the header of the table. You can also upload your own datasets or add external WMS layers to the portal if you're not satisfied with whatever is currently implemented there. To be able to do so, you need to be signed in the portal, and that's done currently through a Google account. So you need to click on that sign in button, then it will guide you to the Google login. Then we will receive a request, which I'm checking regularly. And once I have it, I'll just approve you, and then you are able to upload your datasets there. Whatever datasets you upload to the portal, it will stay in your private space. No one else can see it. It's just for you. So now you see in the upper right corner that I'm already logged in and authenticated with my Google credentials. The portal provides the generic WebGIS functionality, so WMS layers you can plot together with other data sets which have coordinates. Also provide interactive visual analysis of multidimensional data, so you can, again, brushing and linking features, selecting data in one plot, it's immediately linked to the table and all other plots of the same data set. Yeah, that's actually what I just said. Map and plots are linked for visualizations. For whom we are developing that portal, so the primary target group are researchers, but of course it's also very suitable for students or educators because it's relatively intuitive. And of course, the data sets which we are providing are interested to all of the groups. Here you see the link to the EPOS Norway Portal. So if you go to the address epos-no.uib.no, and then you find a link in the upper menu to the portal, you click on that, you'll be redirected to the landing page, which looks as the screenshot above, and then you go through the 3 axes, and then you will get to the portal. At the page, which is indicated with the screenshot, there's also a brief summary of what I just presented now. So if you scroll on that page, on that landing page, you will learn basically a very similar thing what I just introduced now. back, what is the linkage to the EPOS EDIC, the European Research Infrastructure Consortium? Just want to explain the data flow, at the European level. We have the thematic communities on the left-hand side, which provides and connects the datasets to the integrated core services, which is the central. This is the point where also the graphical user interface of the European portal is connecting to get the data. And on the right-hand side, you see the distributed core services, which are not fully implemented yet, but as you see, the visualization is highlighted here, and that's the technology of the Enlighten Web, which we are working on to be implemented as a pilot visualization tool also at the European EPOS level. The Enlighten Web as such will not be alone. We're also working on integrating the Jupyter notebooks. So in addition to have only the visualizations in the portal, you might be able to deploy Jupyter notebooks with some example codes, which will be tightly linked to the visualization tool of the Enlighten Web, and potentially also other distributed services. So this will create a new opportunities and new environments where you can work with the data online, so you don't need to download it locally to your computer. And of course, later on also share that online workspace with other researchers or collaborators. So now I'm finished with my part with the introduction of the EPOS Norway Portal, and we will go to the individual demonstrations by Harald. So I'm giving the words to him right now.
Thank you for the introduction, Jan. I will introduce here. This is the website, how it looks when you first enter it. So there are a few panes on the left side and a few ones on the upper one. I'll go through each one. So the first one you want to look at might be this one for workspaces, display it's called. So if you have the pencil marked, you can change the name. I will call this case 1, Arctic earthquakes, and then I'll make another one because I'll introduce a second case, which is called Icelandic volcanoes. All right, so keep that in mind first. It could be useful to have different workspaces if you're working on more than one case. Now I'll go to search and find, and the first thing I want to find is earthquakes in the Arctic. Then I'll head to seismological data, and you can see it's narrowed down here. I'll go to explosion events Arctic 1960 to 2016, and I will also go to seismic events Arctic 1960 to 2016. And then you can see both these datasets are in the select dataset service. I'll add one more with a few refinements. This is from the Norwegian Seismic Network after 2016 until present day. That's the reason we're adding this as well. So here we can configure a lot of things. So I'll set it to 2016 until present day. And then I'll refine it because we're going to look at Svalbard later. So for the minimum longitude and a maximum, and also for the latitude, I'll refine it here. And then it may take a minute or so for the database to process the query. In the meanwhile, I'll head to this workspace. So we're working here. And here we have the different displays or the different ways of displaying the data. Here we can also change the layout and put the number of columns and tiles. Sometimes I like to have 2, 3, or maybe 4. So let's have 4 here now. Now the UIB events has loaded. One more thing I will check. I will have a few of the map sections as well here. So we'll have marine geohazard maps also added to the data, and also the Svalbard slope angle maps. So those are 5 datasets we're going to work on in the case 1. Okay, so if I head to explosion events, if I press this one, this dataset service content will open. And I like to start with a map view. Then you press the globe in one of the views here. And then the first thing you want to do is pull the longitude to the x-axis and latitude to the y-axis. Then you can see the Arctic area is populated now with explosions for these somewhere around 60 years. And then you can do the same just by pressing the seismic events, pulling the longitude to x and latitude on the y. And then those will appear here as well. You can modify the colors, but for now we're going to keep it simple. So already now there's a pattern here. For example, like this one. I guess you know what this is. And we're going to explore a little bit more. So for the UAB events, I'm also going to have those. And then we have our 3 data sets all in the map. So let's have a look. You can see them here. I remember earlier I refined this to Svalbard because this is part of our case later. Just keep that in mind. There are more data, but those are refined. So immediately I see something like a contour of, well, maybe it's a boundary, a plate boundary. And then I see something, at least up here, we just have the same size and the same colors of everything now. But if I head to explosions, you can have the magnitude as size. So the larger ones will have a larger size. And we can also have the different colors. But for me, this looks a bit interesting because these are very large. And if I head to this area, and in the same time, we can also have scatter plots. So we're having different scatter plots. And then we have explosions here. We can have time on one axis and magnitude on the other. And see here, you only have the ones selected that I have in the map. So if I move this around, it will update automatically. So you can have different, you can plot this in different view windows if you wish, or you can have it in the same. So let's try the same with the natural occurring seismic events. And then we'll go for time, just drag it down here. And then we have magnitude up here. And then in different color, you can see the difference and which one represents which one. And you can also do a selection within this table. So you can browse year by year, for example, in this specific area or globally. So then you can eliminate where and when and what magnitudes these events are. And this is quite apparent what this is. These are atomic test explosions during the Cold War era. So immediately, at least when I explore this data, this popped out to me. Just a side topic though. Okay, so further we will head to Svalbard, this area here, where we selected the Norwegian seismic data as well. Okay, so remember, if you want to clear these spatial selections, you can head here and clear all filters. Then everything will load again, both in the table view and here. And just one thing I'm going to show before I head to Svalbard. If I remove this plot and this one, you can drag the data immediately to see as a table view. And then you can have all 3 of these. Now let's say we refine this to a certain area. The table view will update. And also, if you have a very narrow selection you want to explore, you can also download these 3 different tables. So let's see if we can get one anthropogenic event. Yeah, 2 explosions events here as well. If you wish, you can download these as CSV individually by pressing these buttons. Okay, so let's head to our area we specified for the Norwegian data. And also, we have these marine geohazard maps and Svalbard slope angle maps. So if I press these, we can see different maps here. This one means submarine landslides. So let's head over and pull it to VMS. And then it will load within this area or connected to this area, the submarine landslides. Down here, you can see there's a legend. So this one is the assigned colors for the different explosions and seismic events. And here we have the, these are modern slides, submarine landslides. I suppose that's after the last ice age. Okay, so then we know the locations. There are one major one up here, and for the most part, no other submarine landslides in the Svalbard area. So let's head to Svalbard slope angle maps. So this one is for kind of on land debris, like soil and sediments, and this one is for avalanches. So let's have the one with the sediments and the soil here, and this is slope angle. So let's zoom in a little bit around Longyearbyen, and if we see in the legend what the colors represent, you can see from 0 to 3 degrees of incline, that is white, and for the steepest ones, it's this is a dark red for 46 to 90 degrees. So apparently there are a lot of steep slopes in some of these areas in the fjord areas, which makes sense due to kind of glacial erosion. But apparently there's no submarine landslides in this area. So the online debris that doesn't seem to have a lot of deposition in the sea. There are also a lot of smaller earthquakes here. But if we head to the very north, we will see some connections here. So if I refine this a little bit more, and if we move these tables and go to the scatter plots, we can start to explore a little bit the earthquakes in the area and when and where things happen. Okay, so if I head to the seismic events from this catalog, we can have time on one axis. Let's have a look, time there, and magnitude here. And this shows me the ones in the catalog that is present in this very area. And let's go to UAB events to have from 2016 until present day as well. And then we have magnitude here. And then we may have to press maximize, or in the middle button, you can zoom or retract. So here are the newest data from the Norwegian seismic catalog within this particular area. And as we did before, we can select a certain, let's say, a resolution of 1 year. You can also specify here, edit filter, and then you can set the exact time and period of your selection. Let's say 11th of February 1993, then we have roughly 1 year as a resolution here, and then we can browse and see when these earthquakes occurred, and maybe with some interpretation, maybe say something about this being a triggering mechanism for this landslide. I don't know, it might be more complex, but there's at least one option of exploring like this. And right now we just see these earthquakes as similar sized dots. So we can also have the magnitude here, yeah, the size. Okay, so let's have a look, see if there's any more of the modern earthquakes. Okay, it's one here, and let's see, it's quite weak one, 1.2, 1.3 or so in the magnitude. Let's see if there are more. There's a much stronger one. That's over 4 in magnitude here. Okay. And then we see a few more, and then one in the kind of distal part of the submarine landslide. Yeah, so this is one way of navigating and using these tools. And I'll show a few more things before I start in the second case. So one thing that could be very useful is to enter a VMS URL. So if you want to have an external layer, you can do so. I'll just move this bar because it's overlapping a little bit. Sorry. So this map server here from USGS, we can put in this format. And then I will show you the VMS layers here. And this is for plate tectonics. So if we add the VMS layer here, and zoom out a little bit, make it load, and maybe remove the section we have chosen. And then you can see the tectonic boundaries lining up quite well with the earthquake activity. And for example, in this service, the double lines are transform boundaries, while the other ones are, well, at least here, divergent. And yes, and then we have through Iceland, which is our second case area. Does anyone?
I have just a short comment on
Sure.
the first use case. So that use case which Harald demonstrated was to explore, let's say, relation between the submarine landslides and quakes, which might be either triggering or caused the mutual relation, and also along the long BN, as you have seen the steep slopes. Again, the case is that to check whether there was any big earthquake, which might actually trigger also a landslide in these steep areas, which are actually quite unstable.
Mhm.
So that's again exploring the earthquakes and potential risk of having any land mass or submarine mass movements.
Very good. Thank you for here we will add our own data. And in order to do so, you will need to sign in through Google. Because I'm signed in through a different Google service, I will just press sign in, and it will automatically appear within and show me my last data I have. So now it's blank. I press load your own data here. It must be in a CSV format. It can't be semicolon separated or space separated. Every number has to be comma separated, and then we will have a detailed guide on how to do this later. So there are some complexities, but our guide will cover that quite well. So I'll load this data set here, which was kindly provided by the Meteorological Office in Iceland. Thank you very much. And then I'll press OK. And for CSV parameters, and there should be some parameters here. So in order for as far as I know, the JSON file to be separated and displayed correctly. So for this one, time is quite important. So it kind of understands which column that is time. So if I press OK now, I will have my catalog here. Just press it like the other ones. And then we have the different data here. So this time is recognized here in the specific format. And then we can do as we did before. Let's make it 3 columns in total, or 3 tiles. And then, like we did, we pull the longitude to the x-axis and the latitude to the y-axis. And we browse to Reykjanes, which is an active area of volcanoes, at least for the last couple of years. And then we will go into scatter plots. And here we can have depth on one axis and time on the other. Say we have that on one of them. We can invert the y-axis because it makes sense to have depth the other way around, like this. And then we have time here and magnitude on the other. And if you wish, you can have different attributes set to like color for magnitude, for example. Then you can specify it in the legend, what you want them to represent. And let's do the same on this one. So we have a different, now we have a similar axis. So for magnitude, let's see, we have here, or hold on, let's change it. We have it on depth instead. Then it makes more sense. And then on magnitude, size. So you can specify these as you wish for color. And so let's, yeah. Let's remove this. So if you want to remove, for example, something you plotted, you just go in here in the plot contents, and then you can remove. So then we can keep, yeah, for example, the static. And then you press the plot contents once more, and then it is updated. And if you don't see all of the data, you can press maximize. Within the middle button, you can also zoom and kind of compress or yeah, get to the area you want to explore very accurately. So as you can see here, this is 2020. So in October 2020, it's registered seismic activity in this volcanic active area until, at least in this data set, and at the end of April. And what we want to do now is to explore this further. So if I press Alt, you can select a certain area. And if you want to edit the filter, like we did earlier, just this time it will be 1 day in resolution. And then we'll go from midnight, let's see, until, sorry, 23, not used to this keyboard, sorry. Let's see, like, yeah, like this. Then we have 1 day of resolution here. So then we can browse this from the very the period, the activity, the seismic activity takes up, which is kind of late in February, until the eruption, which is around here. I believe it was 19th of March 2021. So let's zoom in a little bit, like I demonstrated, and then everything will be updated in the other displays as well, like this one with depth and this one in the map. So let's see, from the period where we have stronger seismic activity and building up of pressure, you can see the distribution of the earthquakes here in the selected area. So let's go day by day and see where the distribution is and how the evolution of the depth of these earthquakes are as well. So now we're in March, and going further, you can see the decrease in the maximum magnitude of the earthquakes in the area. And there also seems to be shallower earthquakes. And by this time here, we had our the first eruption, like just around here. Zoom in a little bit more so we can see the days, resolution. Okay, so here we have the first eruption. And then going forward here, with a more stabilized lower magnitude earthquakes in the area, and a bit shallower in depth, that is. So we got an external source for reference, and this paper here, you can see some of our colleagues are presented there, that's great. And then we found this plot here. And this one indicate plume height over time, and indicating the different phases of eruption indirectly, that is. So then we see, as a period we saw now in the middle of March, we have one strong event here, and then a calmer period, and at least for the data we have covered, we have April as well. So there are 2 more pulses of magmatism apparently in this area. So let's see if we can see this trend in our data as well. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. Okay, so if we browse further, you can see the distribution here. So some of these earthquakes are more located in north, while some of them are more here. So as far as I know, this is the active area. and the shallower earthquakes are more apparent after the first eruption. If we scroll all the way back, let's see. So at least for us, it seems like there's a lot of seismic activity in a certain period before the eruption here in the north, and then after the eruption, there seems to be more centered or clustered around this central area. So this may be speculation from our side because we are not experts in volcanology, but interesting nonetheless. So yeah, let's see. I think that was all for the cases.
On this use case, while people are thinking about their questions, what we, for example, can see also in this plot, which is very obvious already, that the increased seismic activity then kind of cooled down when the eruption started. So the whole area was depressurized, and a lot of the stress was released through the magma vents, probably, and thanks to that also the seismic activity was decreased. From a seismology perspective, what I see, for example, we are also kind of losing the low magnitude events, at least the resolution of the low magnitude events, when we have the really high seismic activity at the beginning of the phase. So probably the catalog is not complete. I'm just guessing it's probably because of the high noise in the data because of the strong earthquakes. So maybe it's difficult to catch also all the small events, but I'm pretty sure they are also there. And I mean, at this scale, of course, it's really high populated or high dense data set. So to be able to see details, maybe it would be better to zoom more in the map view and analyze individual clusters of the seismic activity, and maybe try to understand more and correlate with other data which might be available, either the concentration of the of different components in the air, or the height of the plume as indicated, or other parameters. So again, this use case was demonstrating the let's say the option to upload your own data set to this portal. Again, it will just remain there for you in your private space, so you don't need to be worried about let's say a misuse, even though if it's, let's say, not yet public data set, because these features which are introduced, this brushing and linking, like one data set view in different dimensions with multiple filters applied, might be very handy for detailed analysis of any data set. It doesn't need to be seismology, of course. It's just we selected those because I'm seismologist. That's what I understand the best. So maybe I can also give a brief demonstration of other data sets. So other, let's say, options or visualizations in the portal which were not mentioned in this use case. So I also downloaded a list of volcanoes around the globe. So it was introduced by Harald already, this search and find functionality, where you can filter for by clicking the columns and getting the data set you want. Some are integrated as services, so you might need to configure the service before actually getting the data. And then you have the different options or different displays where you can do your own visualization. So here again, I have the global data set of earthquakes from the Norwegian National Seismic Network, plotted together with bathymetry, geological map of Norway, and then I can also do the filtering For example, I can do a selection in this scatter plot. I'm interested in only in the large events, let's say up to magnitude 4. So I did this selection. Then I can also adjust the filter to have exact specific magnitude. So let's put minimum magnitude 4. Maximum we can keep as it is. And now we see actually that we don't have many big earthquakes along the continental Norway, with just some events offshore, and most of them are along the rift. But of course, the big earthquakes are recorded globally. So we have, I mean, even the Norwegian National Network have a global coverage of data, so we can see all the big earthquakes here. The earthquakes are color-coded by depth here, down to 50, so you can set the depth limit. Of course, you can put it higher, let's say 400, and then the score scale will adjust. But then you will have not such good resolution for the shallow earthquakes. Similarly, the size of the circles can be adjusted. I artificially increase it to 40 to get the events all smaller, to have a better overview. And again, below is the legend for the geological map in Norway. So that's one view. The second one, which is, so this data set is loaded directly from the catalog we have in place. The second is a view of volcanoes, which I get from VAAC. So this is this data set, which provides a simple list of volcanoes, their state, the volcanic subregion, the summit elevation, and of course the location. So the locations are plotted here, again together with other data sets, the geological map in Norway, also the pipelines from the Norwegian Petroleum Directorate. So also these layers are available. Of course, Iceland is crowded by volcanoes, but we see the catalog is covering the whole world. We have in total about 1,000 earthquakes. If I just drag and drop this table, this data set to the table view, I see exactly that we have 1,364 earthquakes globally. So that's a second view, that's a table view. Then I chose the bar chart for the volcanic subregion. I can just replicate this plot. So instead of choosing the scatter or global or the map view, globe view, I will choose the bar chart, and then I will scroll down to the volcanic subregion, just drag and drop it on the x-axis, and it gives me the areas. Of course, it's now there are many subregions, so not all of them can be plotted here, so they are actually put into the other. So there are some limitations, but if I do selection in the map view, like here, then immediately the regions are also updated. And then I can also put additional filter on top of it by clicking the category, and it's also visualizing the corresponding points in the map. So as you see, if I'm switching between those two regions, they are correspondingly highlighted also in the map or in all other connected plots, like the table, the scatter plot. Yeah, so this scatter plot is actually showing the dependence of summit elevation on latitude. For some reason, I don't see the bottom on the screen. Okay, I'll just stop the full screen view. Yeah, so as I said, along latitude, so it's just one of the options to see, or if you want to try to find a correlation between the summit elevation and the latitude or any other component within the data set. Also on this bar chart, I have the second text field, which is called a state. So basically any text information you can use as categories or as a bar chart, and then filter by them. Yes, so that's for the volcanoes on different views and filtering of the data set. The last example I have, it's about the GNSS data, because we are able also to plot the vector data. Here we have GNSS stations in Norway. So if I select the station, it's called GNSS velocity maps. So here we have a list of stations. If I show the content, so we have the latitude, longitude, of course, as the Y and X map axis. We use the height as a color scale, but also we put the vector maps to that for the individual components, east, north, and height. So those are the components of the vector, which is then plotted in 3D. So if I then in the globe view, I can tilt it. So if I just press the middle button on the mouse, I can tilt the globe view and also see it in 3D view on the actual vector itself. How to navigate or how to use the map view, it's also under the question mark, so you can learn quickly what features are available in this view. If I click reset, actually it goes to Sri Lanka. I'm not sure why exactly, but it should at least go back to the top view. So here I have the second are the individual stations from that data set. And as you see, they have additional link, which is add. So here we have the stations, and the vector is showing the average velocity calculated for the given period. I'm not sure if we see the period. Yeah, we see the start of the time series here. So since then, probably until we implemented the dataset, which was roughly in 2020, I guess. And actually, we can check that. So for each individual station, we can also see the individual time series. So if I click the add button for any of those stations, the station itself will appear in the list here. So I clicked earlier on this FINC station in here, which is added here. Then I can, if I click on that specific station, I see that there's a time series available, having the date component, of course, and the vector. Then I decided, okay, I'm interested in the height changes at this specific station in time. So I just dragged the height of the station as Y and the date as x-axis to this plot, and then I see the changes of the height within since the station or since the data are available. Again, I can move the plot and also explore what is the actual end date of the data set. So actually it's ending this one, it's until 2015. Yeah, I will not make any conclusions on the data itself because I'm not geodatist. I cannot comment on that. But just wanted to demonstrate the features, what you can do within this portal. So please feel free to explore the content, what we have, and of course, plot the data sets you are interested in. I can also quickly share the current results, responses we got, because there are some comments there which I would like to respond two. So I'll start. The first is that, yeah, it's actually was mentioned several times to suggest to use cases or data which are available for everyone. Yes, I agree. We just wanted to demonstrate this option that you can upload your own data. The similar exercise you can do actually with the data set. Let's say the NSN earthquakes, which we have there. The only difference is the upload process, which is not there, but we can provide another data set which is publicly available as an example, also with instructions how to ingest that specific data set, even though it will not the Icelandic earthquakes, but still you will be able to do it. And of course, you can upload any of your data in the CSV format.